How's it going, guys? In this video review, I want to give you a great book review by Tom Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling. Tom Hopkins is a legend, a legend in selling, and this is become one of the most recommended books to read. I'd just like to read a passage. I'd like to read a passage from the book. So he says here, now you can look at those common objections and say to yourself, someday I'll make a study of how to respond to them. But for now, I'm getting by all right, winging it. When I'm in front of the customer, the adrenaline's going, and sometimes I come up with some real good stuff. Sure you do. That's why you're breaking all those sales records. Oh, you're not breaking sales records? Then possibly one reason you're not is that you're winging it or improvising your responses to objections instead of practicing, drilling, and rehearsing them. No one ever became great at sales without first becoming great at handling objections. So you must learn how to manage objections. Whenever you're going up across to a customer, when they're asking something, write down the objections. A lot of great salespeople rebuttal for every single objection, and they just tend to like a box of boom, 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 boom. So always, if you can master objections, then that's fantastic. I remember once when I was working in a big company, and one of the objections that I got all the time was, we don't have the budget. And all the people that worked there, like, they weren't sales guys, but the people that worked there who had to try and close those deals and everything, they didn't know, like, as soon as they said they don't have the budget, they just, they ran off. And I didn't realize, but that was just an objection. So then I did some research on, how do I get around this budget type of objection? So then I found out, and then once again the client says, "Oh, we don't have it in budget." And then I said, "Well, you got the electricity in your budget, you've got the furniture in your budget, but none of those things really make you money. But this thing here will make you money. So I'm sure you have the budget for this thing that will make you money." And then they were like, "Oh, okay." So it's all about finding the right rebuttals to those objections. Another one, a rejection word is any term that triggers fear or reminds prospects that you're willing to try to sell them. Tom Hopkins recommends for you to change the wording around. So instead of saying it costs this much or the price is, change it to total investment. The more senses you involve, the better your odds of making the sale. So you want to try and use everything. Write down the names of people you spend the most of your time with. Go over that list carefully and think about whether each person on it is an emotional plus for you. Put everyone who isn't a positive force in your life on the second list, and then consider finding new people to be around instead of non-pluses on your second list. So that's a big secret behind selling, is that it can be a really stressful environment. You're getting rejected, and it can just really take you out. But if you're surrounding yourself with positive people, great people, ambitious, and trying to better themselves, these guys will push you to the top. This has been one of the most beneficial pieces of advice I've ever received, was just to hang around winners, and it's so important. I'd rather hang around one winner than 99 losers, to be honest, and it makes such a huge impact. You want to hang around the right people. Another key takeaway from this book is how to determine the itch cycle for your product or service. So Tom Hopkins talks about, there's a thing called the itch cycle. What the itch cycle is, it's like a time when the customer decides to purchase again or upgrade or whatever it is. So take, for example, a car. He found that people tend to change cars every 7 years, right? So he figured out the itch cycle for a customer is 7 years. So if he hangs around long enough, then he'll be able to get another purchase from that car. Different products and services have different lengths in itch cycles. You might want to think, some people like to change plans on a particular mobile phone every year or something. This type of little information is very important, and if you're really serious about selling, you want to find out what your customer's itch cycle is, and just make sure you just keep looking after them over and over again, and then they'll come back to you at a certain point when they're ready to buy, and straight away they'll think, oh, okay, let's go back to this person, he's always thinking about me, and then they'll buy from you again. So it's really fantastic. But anyway, it's a really great book. I like this book. Everyone's recommended this book as well. You got to check out Tom Hopkins' stuff. He was one of the greatest salesmen in the world, and you might want to read this book and learn as much as you can from it. So go check it out. Highly recommend book. I also, by the way, I also remember one time I was traveling in New York, and I was walking down the street, and there was like these markets where these guys were like making so much money hand over fist. They were selling like anything. And I remember I watched this one guy. He was selling these beanies, right? And he just kept selling. I was watching he was just selling to all these tourists over and over again. I was thinking, wow, this guy's really good. And then when he had like a minute or 2 minutes later, right, I saw him and watched him. He sat down and he grabbed this book. He grabbed this book and he opened it up. And he just started reading it really quickly, and the book was really worn out. It was torn, but it looks like he was reading this book for like quite some time. You know, maybe even in the rain because it looks so worn out. So that guy who was selling, you know, those beanies in New York, he was reading this book. So go check it out. Fantastic book by Tom Hopkins. Thanks.